The Euripus Strait is a narrow channel of water separating the Greek island of Euboea and the Aegean Sea from Boeotia in mainland Greece. The strait's principal port is Chalcis on Euboea, located at the strait's narrowest point. The strait is subject to strong tidal currents which reverse direction approximately 4 times a day. Tidal flows are very weak in the eastern Mediterranean, but the strait is a remarkable exception. Water flow peaks at about 12 km/h, either northwards or southwards, and lesser vessels are often incapable of sailing against it. When nearing flow reversal, sailing is even more precarious because of vortex formation. The Swiss scholar François-Alphonse Forel contributed to an understanding of the enigmatic phenomenon by his study of limnology and the discovery of SEIC, where layers of water of differing temperature oscillate in thickness in a confined body of water. But the problem was solved completely only by D. Eugenides, director of the Athens Observatory, who published his conclusions in 1929. The current consensus is that the Euripus was closed by a dike of coarse sediment until about 6,000 years ago. It was opened following an unrecorded earthquake and remained open, see Herodotus, EA 7-173 and 866, on the Sea Battle of Artemision, until 411 BC, when the Euboeans decided to renounce their status as an island subject to Athenian hegemony and make themselves part of Boeotia. Diodorus Siculus, Bibliotheca Historica, 13.47, sections 1-8. There is no trace of this either in Thucydides or in Xenophon, in History of the Peloponnesian War and in Hellenica respectively. Diodorus mentions specifically that gaps had to be left in the dike to allow the Euripus tides to flow through and that the current became much more intense owing to the narrowness of the passage, and says that a single passage was left just wide enough for a single ship. Strabo, 9.2.2, wrote of some later time when there was a bridge 2 plethora long, approximately 50 meters, which is probably an exaggeration. Some vestiges of the 2 ends of the dike of 411 probably remained, so that this later bridge was probably narrower than the channel that existed before 411 BC. We have no information about the depth, but even in the case of a channel about 50 meters wide under Strabo's bridge, the depth could have been scoured out to a level entirely sufficient for ancient shipping. It is not until the time of the Emperor Justinian I that we have evidence of 2 channels in the Euripus, the large original channel and a new, narrow cleft to the east of it, so narrow that it could be crossed on a plank of wood. Procopius, on the Buildings, April 3, 2016. This later stream is what was eventually widened to make the present shipping channel. At the time when Procopius wrote, the name of the fortress on the Euripus was probably Euripus, which had become Aegiropos by 1204, and was adopted and slightly altered to Nigriponte by the Latins who occupied the place in 1205. The name has nothing to do with any sort of black bridge, except as a Vernese or Venetian joke, or folk etymological corruption or reinterpretation in reference to the old bridge across the channel. In 1395, Nicola di Martoni came to Negropont during the return from his pilgrimage to Egypt and Palestine. He is clear that the main shipping channel in the Venetian period was on the side of the Boeotian mainland, and mentions the mills on the narrower channel, which he says were sometimes broken in the speed and turbulence of the flow there. We have further information about the shipping channel and its single wooden bridge from various documents in the archives of the Venetian Empire. In 1408, the formation of a reef under the bridge severely affected shipping, and in 1439 there was concern over the tendency of the current to erode the surroundings of the pilings that supported the bridge. Evlius Celebi, in his travel journal, tells us that the narrow channel was first opened out enough for a galley to pass through at some time in the late 16th century, and was still just barely wide enough at the time of his visit in 1668 for a galley to squeeze through, even though the old shipping channel had been abandoned. By the end of the 18th century it was well on its way to being the width of the modern channel.